We are the Ministry of Clarity, bringing you news and knowledge which the Ministry of Truth would never. This broadcast is the first in a series of 3, in which we hope to clarify the true horrific nature of the Helldivers Division of the Super Earth Armed Forces. In today's installment, we're going to be looking at the actual cost imposed upon enlisted Helldivers and their families. You may be aware that we have several journalists embedded in various positions within the SEAF. Recently, one of our associates was rotated to duty at one of the many Helldiver training facilities on Mars. She was able to acquire images from inside the training process, including the public's first look at the contract of employment entered into by enlistees in the Helldivers Division. It reveals many injustices faced by the ignorant volunteers. We say ignorant volunteers because the individuals enlisted are press-ganged into this agreement at the conclusion of their training without actually reading or even getting a summary of the contract. In fact, it is considered a breach of the contract to read the contract in the first place. Section 3, Clause 2 forbids the enlisted to access controlled classified material without written superior consent. And then Clause 3 reads, in full, to read these terms and conditions in full shall be considered a breach of Clause 3.2. The enlisted, therefore, is completely unable to know that under Section 6, Clause 4, the contract shall be considered binding upon being read in whole or in part. For the purpose of the elimination of doubt, the enlisted spending 1 second within 15 meters of a copy of the contract shall be interpreted as the contract being read. So having read and agreed to this contract, what exactly has the poor volunteer doomed themselves and their family to? Well, to start with, crippling financial debt for themselves and their family that will take generations to pay off. We at the ministry have wondered before how Super Earth can afford to sustain an organization as costly and inefficient as the Helldivers Division. Well, now we have our answer. As per Section 1, Clause 4, the enlisted will be responsible for the purchasing, maintenance, replacement, and improvement of the equipment used for the provision of services. So every time a Helldiver calls in air support or summons a support weapon, that's on his or her dime. And if that Helldiver should be killed, then the debt is passed on to their successors and heirs. What is the magnitude of the debt entered into by these citizens? We were able to ask the shipmaster of the SES Paragon of Fortitude, fighting in the Vandalon system at the time of questioning.
Shipmaster Fenson, how much does it cost to run a mission from this ship?
The average Helldiver mission approaches the cost of a Liberty-class cruiser. The cost of one stratagem is more than most citizens make in a year. You can see why they only entrust them to Helldivers.
So one stratagem is more than most make in a year. You listeners have debts. Can you imagine if your debt was more than a year's wages? How long would it take you to pay that off? 30 years? 60 years? What if your debt exceeded multiple years' wages? Our sources in the fleet suggest that a Helldive operations manpower budget is calibrated around a projected 2-minute survival period for each diver. In those 2 minutes, a Helldiver is expected to use at least 3 stratagems: a support weapon, a resupply, at least 1 ordnance strike, and so forth. That could mean over 100 years of crippling debt for their family members. And if the soldier should live for longer than that, or even live through the mission and survive till the next dive, he or she could summon dozens of orbital drops and airstrikes. That's millennia of financial slavery. That Helldiver's children's children's children will be buried in those shackles until the Federation has crumbled to dust. How is a collection of lifetimes of economic binding supposed to help the cause of freedom? It cannot. Super Earth is putting its people into prisons of debt, and we don't even get the privilege of knowing until it's too late. And by the way, Clause 2 dictates the Helldivers only paid for mission time, in which they're only expected to survive 2 minutes. Those killed in the line of duty earn a martyrdom payment, minus the costs of operation incurred by the enlisted. Super Earth reserves the right to modify or cancel these payments at their own cruel discretion. One other cost, too great by any estimation, is bereavement for the Helldivers' loved ones. Of course, combat duties frequently result in death, but even if the troops survive, or are lucky enough to escape combat operations, they will be kept from their family forever. Clause 5 of the employment contract dictates the termination of a Helldiver's service. There is no provision for retirement, nor for medical discharge. There is no maximum or even minimum length of service. The only means of leaving the Corps are death, treason, or whenever the hell Super Earth feels like it, and not a day sooner. We have evidence that even after this war ends, all Helldivers will simply be frozen in tubes and tucked away in a rocket silo for the rest of their families' lives until they're needed for the next war. One frequent mission undertaken by the Helldivers is an evacuation of high-value assets. Pictured here is a standard briefing dispatch for such a mission. Read that these have been sequestered since the First Galactic War. Those assets are old Helldivers. We got cameras on the surface for one of those evacuations. Look, this is the same model of rocket used for modern Helldiver transport. You can see the insignia of the Helldivers division on the nose cone of the vessel, and all along the sides, active cryopods with Helldivers fresh from training 100 years ago, ready to thaw for a war which they do not know. How many families mourns the loss of a son, or a daughter, or a spouse who never came home from war, not because they were killed, but because Super Earth selfishly hoarded them and let the families believe their loved one had died. They'll do it again after this war, mark our words. Make no mistake, if someone you care about enlists and joins the Helldivers, or if you join the Helldivers, you will never see your loved ones again. They will keep you from them forever so they can use you for their gains. And when you need them after your body is spent in their service, they will throw you away like garbage. We are the Ministry of Clarity, and we thank you for your time.